Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kelly and this video is about the Pluto lines and astrocartography. I made an astrocartography video a while back and I also offer astrocartography readings. These are one-on-one sessions where we meet and explore all of your astrocartography. I pick 5 locations and then I leave a lot of free space for you to ask me the locations you're curious about, and we really dive deeply into your astrocartography chart to understand and get a gauge on what places in the world best support you. But this video today is personally inspired by my own living situation at the moment where I'm currently living, and it's about a highly taboo location. It's about Pluto lines. I get a lot of questions from people about Pluto lines when I'm in session space, when I'm out of session space, just talking about astrocartography and astrology with people. And here's my thoughts on Pluto lines. And what I mean by Pluto lines is that in astrocartography, your personal chart based on your birth details gives this grid of all of the planetary alignments and configurations that are happening across the globe based on your natal chart. You know, what is the unique relationship you're going to have to each part of the planet? Some places are more empty and open. Some places are highly concentrated with a lot of different dynamics, and tells this beautiful story of, you know, your locational psychology. Pluto lines is when you have a Pluto line running through a location or very close by. I, about 5.5 months ago, chose to move to a Pluto line. And I say that, but I also feel like the line chose me. I felt really strong guidance to be living here where I am now. Currently, I'm living in Sedona, Arizona. And I chose my Pluto line because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. And I have a pretty strong disposition of Scorpio placements in my natal chart. Scorpio energy feels very at home. It's like a feeling of being at home for me. And I noticed that I tend to thrive off of the depths of Scorpio energy. So when I made the choice to move here, I was kind of saying yes to leaning more into the Scorpionic traits of my psychology and leaning more into that expression. And for me, it's my Pluto line conjuncting my MC, so my midheaven, which is also in Scorpio. I have both of those in Scorpio. So let's break down what a Pluto line with Scorpionic influence can look like. One, it's important to know what the aspect is. Let's say I had Pluto like opposition my MC, I probably wouldn't have moved here. I'm not saying if that's where you are, that's a bad move. Maybe you like a challenge. There are definitely negative aspects, angles that can be formed in astrocartography, and more positive ones. Because mine were conjuncting, there's actually a really powerful alliance forming between my midheaven, which is career path, reputation in the world, vocation, and Pluto, which is personal power, transformation, regeneration. So regeneration of career path, regeneration of reputation, of what I'm bringing to the world, you know, that kind of thing. Now, positive aspects could look like a trine, a sextile, a conjunction. That's a good sign. Okay, so that's the first part here. Is it a negative aspect or a positive aspect? And what I really like about Pluto lines, and the devil's advocate edge I'm gonna play, which I tend to do, Pluto brings transformation, right? Pluto is like an outlandish planet that has this totally unique frequency, and it's kind of cold, you know, and nothing can live there. But there's deep regenerative power. Pluto energy wants to take us to the depths. Pluto energy wants to show us our power and also show us whatever is suffocating our power. Getting real with ourselves, looking at what's actually blocking us from stepping into power, rising into our personal power. So this is what I love about Pluto lines, is that if you have a propensity for diving deep, or if you're in a chapter in your life where you're like, I need to get real with myself, I'm ready to pull off the blinders and see clearly, I want to dive in, I want to do the work, I want to ground into like what really matters to me, a Pluto line will give you that transmission. Is it going to come easy? Well, if it's a positive aspect, it might not be as painful, but I don't think any deep transformation is easy. And that's the gift of Scorpio. It's like, I don't want it to be easy. I want it to be real. I want it to be something I care about. And I do feel like that's another quality of living on a Pluto line. It can really help us see what do you care about, what really matters to you, and help trim the fat of any areas of your life that are kind of leaking power. And that's something that I noticed when I moved to Sedona. A lot of things started like shedding from my life. However, more on a psychological level. And that's Pluto. I find Pluto to be highly psychological. Pluto's not necessarily, like the bread and butter and the logical and tangible, like Taurian, right? That's the opposite spectrum, like Taurus, Venus. Pluto is the psychological, the psychic, the shamanic. And I noticed that when I moved here, and even before I moved here, because I was getting such a strong pull to live here, I was going through a lot of psychological shifts and changing my perspective on things and really seeing old patterns. When we live on a Pluto line, we can go through deep psychological shifts of how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we deal with our own wounding patterns and mechanisms. Pluto wants to come in and, it's the great transformer. It wants to shake the bedrock of whatever's on. It's like the Tower card in tarot. It's like if it's built on a shoddy foundation that's like gonna eventually collapse, let's just do it now. And if it's a positive aspect, I feel like it can be gentle, or at least as gentle as possible. But whenever we resist Pluto, just like whenever we resist death, whenever we resist more of the occult, challenging aspects of life, the harder emotions, they compound, and they can create psychological distortion. And that's the thing, when we are not in approval of our full spectrum, our ability to feel pain, anguish, grief, sorrow, and we think that we have to fix it all, if we just can't kind of sit with it and be with it, we can start getting like really psychologically distorted. Because I think to be a healthy emotional being is to learn how to hold and be held by others, whatever is true in our hearts and feelings. So I'm a fan of Pluto lines. I will say, if you are kind of Scorpio energy averse, or if you don't have a lot of Scorpio energy in your chart, or 8th house placements, it might feel a little more intimidating. But I think that through the lens of, evolutionary astrology, seeing this as an archetypal language, not a limiting box, we can all benefit from that. So if you're in a place in your life, or at some point in your life, if you're in a place where you feel like you're really needing to break down psychological patterns and embrace a new way of being and shift your perspective and your perspective of yourself and your perspective of the world and what's possible, Pluto lines can provide that, given there's a positive aspect. So that's just my take on Pluto lines. I wanted to shine some light on this because I think a lot of people can be afraid of them. I've noticed, as challenging as it has been in ways, and in ways I do feel very pushed to my edge on this line, I also feel really resourced with the skill sets, the tools to build a new narrative, to face my fears, to grow new pathways, new expressions of self, or maybe just deepening in those truest expressions of self. So if you resonated with this, let me know below. Have you ever lived on a Pluto line? Also, I will post the link in the comments and the description if you want to book in a one-on-one astrocartography session. I would love to meet with you and explore your chart. And I will see you in the next video. Have a beautiful day.